Today I'd like to start this video a bit differently. I'll be sharing with you a story about a friend of mine, which might seem somewhat random at first, but I promise everything will make sense by the end, and will perfectly tie into the topic I want to discuss today. My friend, Adam, was telling me about this one time when he was about 8 years old. He went with his family to the countryside. Having grown up in a big city, imagine the shock, landing right in the middle of nowhere, with dirt roads and houses far apart from each other. They were visiting his grandfather, and everyone there was incredibly welcoming. Then one day, his mom asked him to go to the neighbor's house to borrow a bowl. He had been there before with someone, so he knew the way, but this time he had to go alone, and those overly quiet roads gave him the chills. Off he went, on his way, with no one around, when he heard a noise. At first, he thought it was nothing, but the noise happened again, and it seemed like something was following him. He froze, thinking about the myriad of things that could be hiding in the woods. A bear? A ghost? But then, out of nowhere, something jumped out of the bushes. It wasn't a jaguar or a zombie, it was a fox. Even so, he was tense. He only knew foxes from stories where they're always up to no good, and a fox bite could hurt a lot. He began to wonder if the fox saw him as a snack. Then, for a moment, they just stood there, looking at each other. And in that moment, he saw how beautiful the fox was. Its bright orange fur, with the sun shining on it, made it look like a stunning painting. After a while, the fox simply crossed the road and disappeared. But my friend never forgot that encounter. He felt kind of silly for being so happy about something so simple, but something inside him said that moment would stay with him forever. As Adam was sharing his story about the fox, and how this singular moment became an eternal part of his memory, it sparked a reflection in me. The fear of the unknown is a natural reaction we all experience. It can serve as a protective mechanism, alerting us to potential dangers. However, this same fear can also limit our ability to explore, learn, and grow. Often, the unknown carries with it unique opportunities for enriching experiences that stay with us for a lifetime. Imagine if we could see everything that happens to us, even the bad things, in a way that made complete sense. What if we could look at everything, even our fears, and think, this is part of something bigger? Could it be that everything happens for a reason? This man with the beautiful mustache, known for his revolutionary thoughts, proposes a bold idea to extend this phrase beyond its superficiality. Everything happens for a reason, and I am the one who creates that reason. This creates a fascinating dynamic. It's no longer just about passively accepting what happens to us and puts us in the position of creators of our own meaning. Suddenly, finding meaning in life's adversities becomes an act of creativity. Nietzsche encourages us to embrace this creativity and to pay attention to what it has to tell us, especially in difficult times. How do we do this? Through the affirmation of life. Nietzsche wrote, "If we affirm one single moment, we thus affirm not only ourselves but all existence. For nothing is self-sufficient, neither in us nor in the external world. And if our soul has trembled with happiness and sounded like a lyre string just once, all eternity was needed to produce that event. And in that moment, all eternity is justified." Wow, deep, right? What he means is simple. Every event is interconnected. For you to exist today, an immense chain of events, coincidences, and even tragedies was necessary. If a leaf hadn't fallen exactly where it did, maybe your parents would have never met. If an atom was out of place, maybe the universe as we know it wouldn't exist. Thus, Nietzsche invites us to observe all this and make room for gratitude, but not in a generic and passive way. He speaks of a gratitude that recognizes how valuable our existence is, including the difficult moments. To sum up, he uses a powerful concept, AMOR FATI, which means love of fate. Here, fate is not seen as something predetermined, but rather as the capacity to embrace what we cannot change. Because in a way, we are destined to face suffering. There's almost a paradox here, as suffering is the price of freedom. At some point, we will make wrong choices or be impacted by the poor choices of others. AMOR FATI, then, is the ultimate act of self-love. looking at one's life and recognizing that to be who you are today, everything had to happen exactly as it did. And yes, some things were terribly unfair. Others keep you awake at night wondering, what if it were different? But in the end, each of these experiences taught you something. And for that reason, they deserve your love. Not because they were positive, but because they are part of who you are. And maybe you're not completely happy with who you are today. But that's where the beauty lies. Thanks to what happened, you now know you need to change. And you know it won't be easy. But with the concept of AMOR FATI as a guide, the journey becomes not just more bearable, but also meaningful. I'll share a story I learned in my therapy sessions that changed the way I see the events of my life. The story is called The Old Man and the Horse. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by mountains and valleys, there was an old man who owned just one horse. By the standards of the village, this made him quite wealthy. But one day, his horse disappeared. The neighbors, hearing the news, rushed to the old man's house to express their condolences for his great loss. "This is terrible news!" However, the old man just shrugged and said, "Maybe." Incredibly, the next morning the horse returned, bringing with it 3 wild horses. Now the old man had 4 horses. The neighbors gathered again, amazed by his fortune. "What a blessing!" they exclaimed. But the old man once again simply said, "Maybe." In the days that followed, the old man's only son tried to tame one of the wild horses, but was thrown to the ground and broke his leg. The neighbors lamented the tragedy. What terrible luck! But the old man, maintaining his serenity, replied, "Maybe." And then, as if fate wanted to illustrate its unpredictability even further, soldiers arrived at the village, recruiting all the young men for a terrible war that was about to take place. The old man's son, due to his broken leg, was one of the few who were not taken. The neighbors came, relieved for his fortune. "You are so lucky. In fact, your son breaking his leg was a blessing." And then the old man, with his usual calm, just said to the neighbors, "Will you never learn?" This story illustrates not just the unpredictability of life, but also the wisdom in embracing each event, good or bad, as part of a larger whole. The old man, in his wisdom, knew that each happening was just a piece of a much larger mosaic, whose final design was not yet revealed. And here comes the beautiful concept of AMOR FATI. It's not just about passive resignation, but an active and passionate embrace of everything life brings us. The acknowledgement that each joy and each adversity contribute to who we are. I started this video with the story of the fox. That year, Adam's family was going through a tough time because they had lost their grandmother. If not for that, he wouldn't have gone to visit his grandfather in the countryside. Obviously, he would never trade his grandmother for any fox, but that's the point. Some things are simply out of our control. If my friend could go back in time, he'd surely want to go back to the moment he met the fox. This reminds me that happiness is very simple, and even if the present is dull and colorless, nothing prevents the future from being bright. Perhaps as bright as the orange of that fox. Life always surprises us with events that, at first glance, may seem good or bad, but whose true essence is only revealed when we learn to see beyond appearances. Epictetus, an ancient sage, reminds us that it's not the things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. And here lies the beauty of the philosophy of AMOR FATI, in the ability to love life in its entirety, embracing every experience, every twist of fate as an essential part of our journey. This is how we can redefine the way we see things, transforming what could be perceived as bad luck, terrible news, into an opportunity to grow, learn, and above all, to love more deeply the unique tapestry of our existence. If there's something keeping you awake at night, questioning the why of life's ups and downs, I hope this video inspires you to look at those concerns in a new light. We can't control all aspects of life, but we can choose how we interpret and respond to them. And that, my friends, is a powerful form of freedom. Everything happens for a reason. It took an eternity of events for you to get here today, and click on this video and watch it till the end. Thank you so much. Whatever keeps you up at night, I hope you realize that, upon reflection, it couldn't have been any different. It's impossible to control everything, and that's the beauty of it. If you've made it this far, it means that this journey through the world of philosophy has awakened something in you. Turn that spark into a flame. Explore Essence of Wisdom, the definitive guide that simplifies the history of philosophy, making it accessible, engaging, and deeply relevant and applicable to your life. The link is pinned in the comments below. Thank you for staying until the end and follow the White Rabbit.